For years, Meghan Markle's story has been wrapped in glitter, mystery, and a carefully maintained silence. The kind that doesn't calm questions, but amplifies them. Because silence doesn't stay quiet, it builds pressure, it gathers weight, and eventually it demands to be heard. This time, that silence didn't break from Buckingham Palace. It didn't crack through tabloids or televised interviews. It broke from somewhere no one expected, inside the family itself. Samantha Markle, Meghan's half-sister, stepped forward, not shouting, not attacking, not performing outrage. Instead, she did something far more unsettling. She introduced clarity, calm, measured, and deliberate. She referenced whispers that had circulated quietly for years. Claims that had never fully surfaced, but never fully disappeared either. The idea that Meghan may have undergone a hysterectomy at just 28 years old. A medical procedure that doesn't simply alter your life, it redraws the boundaries of what's biologically possible. Samantha didn't dramatise it. She didn't demand belief. She said one thing, plainly and repeatedly. People need to look at the timeline because nothing adds up unless you do. And with that single suggestion, the door didn't swing open. It cracked. And behind it was an outrage or spectacle. It was confusion, pregnancies that didn't behave like pregnancies, children rarely seen, moments that felt unusual but were never explained, articles that hinted at something enormous yet offered no proof. That was the moment the story shifted, because once someone tells you to look at the timeline, you can't stop looking. And once you start, you realise the silence wasn't empty at all. It was concealing something. Either the surgery never happened or the pregnancies couldn't have. There is no middle ground here. And that's when the story stopped being gossip and started becoming a logic problem no one could solve without introducing a new explanation. So if pregnancy was impossible, but children exist, there's only one road left: surrogacy. And let's be clear, surrogacy itself is not a scandal. In most families, it's celebrated, it's talked about openly. The woman who carries the child is honoured, protected, and thanked. But Meghan wasn't living an ordinary life. She was inside a royal system where bloodlines aren't emotional, they're legal. Where succession rules aren't flexible, they're centuries old. And in that world, how a child enters the family matters just as much as the child themselves. Royal protocol is painfully specific. An heir must be born of the mother's body. If a surrogate is used, it must be formally declared, documented, recorded, no secrets, no shortcuts. And that's where everything tightens, because if surrogacy was used and never disclosed, then this isn't about privacy, it's about deception. Not moral failure, but procedural violation, a quiet rewriting of rules that were never meant to bend. Admitting surrogacy wouldn't just crack an image, it would shatter the story completely. And that's the moment the audience is left hanging with one unavoidable thought. If surrogacy was the answer, who carried the children? This is where the real story finally begins. Just when the story felt like it had reached its limit, a new voice entered, and this one changed everything. Her name is DL. No blurred face, no shadow, no shaky voice. She didn't whisper, she didn't hide. She looked straight ahead and said the sentence that froze the entire story in place. I carried Archie and I carried Lilith. Not helped, not assisted, not donated, carried. DL said she wasn't a background figure or a quiet participant. She was the woman whose body went through the pregnancies while Meghan Markle appeared in public with a growing bump. According to DL, that bump was never hers. She described being promised protection, privacy, and dignity. What she got instead was silence, control, and eraser. She said she wasn't treated like a mother or even like a woman. She was treated like a vessel, something to be used, then locked away. And here's the part that made people stop breathing. DL didn't come forward with a story alone. She came forward with receipts, not opinions, not memories, evidence. That's when this stopped sounding like speculation and started sounding like testimony. DL said she knew exactly how unbelievable her claim would sound, so she didn't expect anyone to take her word for it. Instead, she brought documents. She described appointment logs, embryo implantation schedules, physician signatures, and detailed medical progress notes. Not loose papers, not vague recollections, official records, dated, stamped, organised, and the timing. That's where things snapped into place. Every major medical milestone in DL's pregnancy lined up with a public announcement from Meghan and Prince Harry. IVF cycles beginning just before royal press releases, implantation dates aligning with pregnancy confirmations, first trimester symptoms matching the exact moment Meghan first appeared with a visible bump. DL said the records came from a Beverly Hills fertility clinic passed to her by a former insider, and when laid side by side with the public timeline, the match was almost perfect. 2 stories, same dates, same rhythm, same milestones, except only one of them involved an actual pregnancy. This is where the story becomes chillingly simple. According to DL, there were always 2 timelines running at the same time. The first was the one everyone saw. Red carpets, smiling photos, stylish maternity outfits, carefully staged appearances designed to show the world a glowing, effortless pregnancy. The second timeline was hidden, quiet, clinic entrances, controlled schedules, hormone treatments, ultrasounds, doctor visits, a real pregnancy happening behind locked doors inside DL's body. She said she was approached just weeks after the royal wedding, escorted through private entrances, handed a thick contract filled with secrecy clauses and anonymity requirements, then placed into a medical program that ran with military precision. Every appointment she attended lined up with a moment Meghan appeared in public. When DL felt morning sickness, Meghan debuted a bump. When DL entered her second trimester, Meghan's pregnancy became official news. One woman was living the pregnancy, another was performing it. 2 stories moved in parallel, but only one of them was real. And once you see that, the question is no longer if something was hidden, it's how far the hiding went and who helped keep it buried. Once DL explained the pregnancies, the next question was obvious. Why didn't anyone hear from her sooner? Her answer was simple. Silence was built into the deal. DL described a contract so thick and detailed it felt designed to erase her. Page after page focused not on care, not on safety, but on secrecy. No photos, no statements, no claims, no identity. And sitting right at the centre of it all was a sealed NDA demanding silence forever, not silence for a few years, silence for life. She said the document came with teeth. Break it and you lose everything. Financial ruin, legal threats, total isolation. According to DL, the agreement wasn't meant to protect privacy. It was meant to control her. Then came the money. DL revealed bank statements showing quiet wire transfers routed through shell companies. The payments followed a pattern. Same days, similar amounts, always discreet. She said the funds were tied directly to the surrogacy agreement managed through financial handlers connected to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's inner circle. But here's the twist. DL claims she was never fully paid. That matters because unpaid agreements don't just break trust, they crack silence. And once silence cracks, stories spill out. This is the moment where even skeptics pause. DL didn't just talk about paperwork. She talked about ultrasounds. 2 of them, both stamped with her patient ID, both showing active pregnancies, and both dated so precisely they matched Archie's 2019 birth and Liliette's 2020 arrival almost to the day. No guesswork, no fuzzy timelines, just medical timestamps that lined up with public announcements like puzzle pieces clicking together. According to DL, these weren't copies floating around online. These were original files tied directly to her medical record. And when placed next to Meghan's pregnancy milestones, announcements, appearances, official statements, the overlap was almost unsettling. Same timing, same progression, same outcomes, except the ultrasounds didn't belong to Meghan's body. They belonged to DL's. And that's the moment the story stops feeling like gossip and starts feeling like math, because numbers don't argue, dates don't exaggerate, and medical records don't care who you are. They just tell the truth. Once DL spoke, old footage started to feel different. There was that moment people remembered but never fully understood. Meghan bending forward at a public event, smiling, graceful, and then the baby bump folding sharply inward, almost like fabric collapsing. At the time, it was brushed off. A strange dress, a bad angle, a trick of the camera, but context changes everything. With DL's claims on the table, that moment snapped into focus because real pregnancy bumps don't fold like that. They don't collapse, they don't falter, they don't crease them fades. DL didn't gloat about it. She didn't dramatize it. She simply said, it wasn't her pregnancy, it couldn't be, it was mine. And suddenly what once felt awkward started feeling revealing. Because when you know a performance is happening, you start noticing the scenes. And once you see the scenes, you can't unsee them. But nothing raised more questions than the birth itself. No hospital steps, no doctors smiling for cameras, no medical staff, no royal photo call. Instead, Archie's arrival was announced quietly, awkwardly, with Prince Harry standing near horse stables, speaking nervously, almost like someone delivering secondhand news. At the time, it was called privacy. Now it feels like strategy. Because here's the truth, no amount of PR can hide. A woman can hide a pregnancy, but she cannot hide labour. Labour leaves records, doctors, nurses, witnesses. Doors opening and closing. William and Kate understood that. Every royal birth before followed a visible pattern. This one did not. And once these allegations entered the conversation, the silence surrounding the births began to feel less incidental and more deliberate, less accidental and more protective. In the end, what remains is not a conclusion, but a series of unresolved questions. This story has never been solely about privacy. It has been about containment. And history suggests that secrets maintained at this scale rarely disappear quietly. They don't erupt all at once. They linger, they resurface, and they leave behind questions that refuse to settle.